There are some people who, through mistakes made in the past, are also facing problems and complications. Any of you who do community service, or like you who have helped out at Meet the People sessions, will have seen this reality. So this is not a new problem. This is not something which will go away in a hurry either. This is something which all societies struggle with. But what I do want you to ask yourself, especially those of you who have volunteered or traveled overseas, my ambition is to make sure that if you ever had to be poor, and I hope you are not poor, but if you ever had to be poor, the best place in the world to be poor is Singapore, because this is a country where we will make sure you have a house, a roof over your head, food on the table, your children will go to school, you will have medical care when you need care, you will be safe and sound. Yes, you will still have to work hard, you will still have to struggle, but the basics are in place, and more important than that, your children will have hope for the future. That's what we are working towards. More details, go and check out the speeches or email us, we'll give you more details. We don't have time for that. But I want you to understand our commitment. This is the Singapore deal. You work hard, look after yourself, try to be self-reliant if you can, look after your family. If you still have difficulty, then the community, through many helping hands, the government will step in. We will make sure the basics are there for you. You must carry on, and you must have hope for the future and be able to live with dignity. That's the deal. Thank you.
I would like to invite Minister to take a look perhaps at the Twitter page. We've got a particularly interesting question or opinion over here by KJLG. Is it so difficult to be truly religious, colorblind? We are successfully gender blind, so it's possible. So perhaps
I think it's, look, I used to be an eye surgeon, okay, an eye doctor. So is it possible to be blind? Yes. You can be born blind, or I can make you blind, right? But I don't want you to be blind. So even in the case of race, language, and religion, what I was trying to say was that I want you to be able to appreciate the differences. I don't want you to pretend that we're all alike, pretend that it doesn't matter. And, remember the term just now you put up there, collective amnesia, that we forget that we're all emotionally and ethnically and religiously confused, and we all embark on an exercise of collective amnesia. That is not my model for Singapore. What I'm trying is to make sure you all can see and see things clearly, including the differences, including the dangers, but then, using your imagination, create a society where these differences can become strengths rather than weaknesses. Very easy to say, but can it be done? And my suggestion to you is that, in fact, in the new world of the future, the real discoveries, the new discoveries, the earth-shaking things will come about by being able to appreciate and learn at the boundaries where there are differences. In science, and again from medical science, the real breakthroughs don't come within our own field, but they come at the boundary lines between different fields. So I'll give you an example. Many of you are wearing glasses or wearing contact lenses, short-sighted, right? One of the commonest surgeries which we perform now is LASIK, or using excimer laser. But the laser that we use for performing LASIK was not invented by doctors. It's invented by engineers for completely different use. And then, in that conversation between engineers and doctors, someone figured, hey, I can use this, created for completely different thing, but I can use this in the case of the eyes, and I can use it to cure short-sightedness. That's just one example. You see how new ideas can come from appreciating differences and having inputs from different channels. So the same thing in the case of Singapore. I don't think our ambition should be to become blind or to become amnesic. I think a grander and bigger and bolder vision is to say we will see all our differences clearly. We will be sensitive to all our differences. But we will still be able to create a cohesive, strong, creative team out of these differences. That's my approach to it. I don't know if the person who sent it is here, but you may want to add, give me your reaction to what I've just said. Or you can Twitter it if you don't want to be identified.
Actually, just now the question, if I might add my own comment, to highlight what KLJG said, she highlighted the example of being gender blind. And that reminded me of a movement which is the suffragette movement, correct me if I'm wrong, which is basically a bottom-up movement. So I would like to encourage everyone that racial and religious harmony should come from the bottom up as well, and should not be a direct top-down approach. And so we all play a part, and that's my true opinion.
I just saw one very interesting tweet also, and I'll just read it out to you. Why can't our common space be multi-religious instead of secular? A godless space doesn't seem compatible to a religious person. Good question, right? Why can't our common space be multi-religious instead of secular? Well, let me give you my take on this. Remember, my starting position is that we are different. The second line was, I want you to be different but feel safe being different. So how can I make you feel safe being different? By giving you some guarantees that in your private space, in your religious space, you are free to believe and to act on your beliefs. Right? But we cannot stop there, because if all of us retreated to our private spaces, there'll be no interaction, no teamwork, no team, and no nation. So that's where we said, okay, you have private spaces, but we also need to have common spaces. Now, managing common spaces in the midst of diversity is a great, great challenge, because immediately the question comes up, right? Multi-religious, first question will be, whose religion? And then the atheist will say, what about me? Are you saying common space is multi-religious, therefore if I'm an atheist, I have no space in it? The answer is that the common space must be a space where everyone can feel comfortable, right? Where everyone, regardless of what he believes in religion-wise, or whether he does or doesn't have a religion, can still come out, play, interact, engage, talk, discuss, do. Now, that doesn't mean it is godless, I mean, the person who said the question, the common space doesn't have to be godless. In fact, the common space has to recognize that, at least in the case of Singapore, 85% of the people in the common space do have a religious belief. So again, I'm trying to get you to, wrap your minds around this concept that there's common space, there's private space. The common space is not anti-religious, but the common space cannot be religious either. Let me give you a real-life example. Now, many religious people will say grace before they eat, right? I'm sure you've seen that. Now, saying grace before you eat or drink is a private act. I might be in the school canteen and I might say grace. I say it quietly, I say it privately before I eat. You see me doing that, but I don't think you make an issue out of that. But if I was to insist that everybody must say grace before they eat, that is an example of a private activity and a private belief now being imposed on the common space. And I don't think you all would be comfortable with that. Right? So again, we need to understand that translated into our daily activity,